Okay, we're going to start reading in Whatever Happened to Penny Candy. Now, this is a book, a fast, clear, and fun explanation of the economics you need for success in your career, business, and investments. Now, I am going to attempt to do this without prejudice or bias. A bias would be the word, right? Your parents may have, I'm imagining there might be a little bit of political stuff and everything that comes in here. So I'm gonna try to do this just as like across the board as I can. But please have your parents watch this video with me right now and understand this author's disclosure, which I'm going to read. For reasons I do not understand, writers today are supposed to be objective, which means not biased, do not have any biases. Few disclose the viewpoints or opinions they use to decide what information is important and what is not, or what shall be presented or omitted. I do not adhere to this standard and make no pretense of being objective, okay? So go get your parents. I want them to hear this. This author is saying, I'm biased. Like, here's what I adhere to. And what he says is he is biased in favor of liberty, free markets, and international neutrality, and proud of it. I don't even know exactly what all of those mean. I'm sure we're going to learn more in the book. So I disclose my viewpoint, which you will find explained in detail in my other books. For those who have not yet read these publications, I call my viewpoint juris naturalism, and he pronounces it juris naturalism, sometimes abbreviated JN, meaning the belief in a natural law that is higher than any government's law. And he has 6 quotes from America's founders that help to describe this viewpoint. Okay, so in the Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Samuel Adams in 1772, the natural rights of the colonists are these. First, a right to life. Second, to liberty. Third, to property, together with the right to support and defend them in the best manner they can. The 4th quote is, it is strangely absurd to suppose that 1 million of human beings collected together are not under the same moral laws which bind each of them separately. Thomas Jefferson in 1816. Thomas and Jefferson in 1801, he said, a wise and frugal government which shall restrain men from injuring one another, which shall leave them otherwise free to regulate their own pursuits of industry and improvement, and shall not take from the mouth of labor the bread it has earned. This is the sum of good government. And then Thomas Paine in 1776, not a place on earth might be so happy as America. Her situation is remote from all the wrangling world, and she has nothing to do but to trade with them. And then George Washington from 1796, the great rule of conduct for us in regard to foreign nations is in extending our commercial relations to have with them as little political connection as possible. Okay, so this book is written for people who think economics, business, or money is beyond them and best left to experts. As a technique to keep the explanations as clear and simple as possible, this book is in the form of a series of letters that might have been written by the uncle of a 9th grade student. The student has asked about inflation and recession, and the uncle, an economist, is answering. When possible, the letters explain by describing historical events. These cover both ancient and modern history with special attention to the Roman Empire. Topics include money, its origin and history, the dollar, its origin and history, the business cycle, inflation, recession, depression, foreign currencies, government, its economic behavior, and others. All explanations and interpretations are according to the Austrian and monetarist schools of economic theory. Austrian because the founders of this school of thought were from Austria, and monetarist because these economists place great importance on the quantity of money circulating in the economy. By the 1980s, the Austrian school had become quite influential. Austrian I keep saying economist instead of economist, Alan Greenspan, who was made chairman of the Federal Reserve System, although what Mr. Greenspan understood was not necessarily what he was able to do. Nobel Prizes have been awarded to Austrian economists, Frederick A. Hayek in 1974 and James M. Buchanan in 1986. The monetarist school, or the Chicago School as it is sometimes called, also became accepted. Its chief spokesperson is the 1976 Nobel Prize winner, the late Milton Friedman. Austrian and monetarist economics were also highly influential to President Ronald Reagan and British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. They used them as a foundation for their economic reforms, which led to great improvements in the U.S. and British economies. So, I am telling you right now that I really don't know much about this stuff at all. So if my biases come out, I'm very sorry. Parents, I would really encourage kids to listen to this with their parent and maybe discuss it. but I'm going to do my best just to kind of present it. I know we all probably have some different viewpoints about certain things in politics or government or money, so we'll do our very best to just kind of present this fairly in that regard. And here is a note about economics. Despite its reputation, economics is neither a dismal science nor a difficult field of study. Economics is fascinating and easy to understand, except when someone presents it in a boring or difficult way. In order to make this book interesting and understandable, I sought the advice of dozens of students as well as business managers and investors. And then he talks again about the Austrian and monetarist economics, and he says, these viewpoints were chosen because good science, good physics, good biology, good chemistry, and good economics depends upon the ability to predict. In other words, if a physicist correctly predicts the moment at which a projectile will strike a target, or a biologist correctly predicts the effect a change in temperature will have on population of insects, then we can say that these scientists are using good science. On the other hand, if the predictions are wrong, then the science is flawed. Economics is subject to the same evaluation. And this is actually, this is written by him. If an economist's predictions are accurate, then his economics must be in tune with the real world. If his predictions are in error, then his economics must be in error. This writer believes the predictions of the Austrians and monetarists have been the most accurate of the economic predictions available today. Portions of this book have appeared in other articles. And then he has Beyond the Basics. Whatever Happened to Penny Candy is written for a multi-age audience. The core chapters 1 through 14 comprise basic skills and concepts. The sections titled Beyond the Basics supplement the core material and are included for those readers who choose to tackle the more challenging concepts. Beyond the Basic ideas and exercises require a more advanced reading level and a slightly stronger understanding of math than required for the core chapters. Beyond the Basics materials appear in bold type in the table of contents and are clearly identified throughout the book. And throughout the book, when a word that appears in the glossary is introduced or defined, it is displayed in bold-face type. And then there's a quote from John Quincy Adams in 1829. All the perplexities, confusion, and distress in America arise, not from the defects in their constitution or confederation, not from want of honor or virtue, so much as from downright ignorance of the nature of coin, credit, and circulation. All right. And then we will be reading the first chapter soon, which is called Money, Coins, and Paper. But that is all the introductory material for our new book.